Hey there, folks. This is Richard of Doomed Moviethon. Today I'm honored and slightly more than completely psyched to be talking to the vivacious, hilarious, and super talented star of many, many horror films, Tiffany Shepis.
And awesome.
Oh, and awesome, rad woman. Thank you for joining me today, Tiffany.
Thank you for having me.
I want to start with the Frankenstein Syndrome, which comes out on DVD on July 5th, and it takes medical horror and then segues into even darker and more profoundly disturbing themes. What can you tell me about Dr. Elizabeth Barnes?
Well, yeah, the Frankenstein Syndrome, it's exciting stuff coming out July 5th. I play Dr. Elizabeth Barnes, who is a molecular biologist. Don't really know what that actually means, but it sounds like she's pretty fancy and went to some big schools. She's a young researcher that is hired by Ed Lauder, whose character is Dr. Walton, and he's establishing all of these stem cell-based research groups to essentially create a universal healing serum, and there's groups like this actually even today that go on, underground stem cell therapy has been going on for years, in this country and other countries, et cetera. People trying to find ways to cure different diseases, and that's essentially what he's doing. So he's created this underground team to create a healing serum that can regenerate dead tissue and bring the dead back to life, essentially. But, it wasn't created for that. It was basically, if you had a bad heart, you know what, we can fix it. And so he brought this team together, and needless to say, Dr. Elizabeth Barnes is pretty freaking smart and may create this healing serum, but like all good things, they're not without bad repercussions. And that old saying of just because we can do it doesn't mean we should. Just because people can have 18 babies in their body doesn't mean it's a good idea. And all hell breaks loose. We bring somebody back to life, and it's not quite as expected.
She has this really disturbing, agonizing, and sad story arc her character goes through. Does she really deserve to suffer quite that much?
Oh, I don't think so. Because I think of all the characters, she actually has some regret of what she did. She knows it was for science, but the way they did it was not necessarily the right way to go. Things happened too soon for them. And, without giving away too many spoilers, it's, should they have tried their serum, on these corpses, should this have happened? She doesn't think she should be there, but then they're kind of forced, to stay there, not voluntarily anymore. So I don't think it should have happened to her. I think it should have happened to Patty's character, to be honest with you, but that's just me.
So start small with, start with the gophers and the rats.
Yeah, some rats, see how it works on them. Don't just try it on a human.
Did we just advocate animal testing?
I think we did.
Whoops.
I think we did.
I saw you.
I'm okay with that. I am okay with not putting some eye makeup remover in my eye and going blind. I'm okay with the rat taking it for the team.
It happens.
Yeah.
I saw you got a producer's credit on the on Frankenstein Syndrome. Is that something you're interested in, working more behind the camera?
I am not necessarily as much as like a director or writer of sorts, but it kind of came to the point where, I would work on these movies, and because I've been, working in the horror genre for so long, people would call me throughout the process, oh, we're editing it, and we'd love you to take a look and see what you think, and hey, what distributors do you think would like this? And, and because, so many, horror so distributors have taken my stuff in the past, I have pretty good relationships with them, so I was able to send cuts out, and it kind of got to the point where I was doing all of this work, and I'm like, well, God, maybe if I took on a bigger responsibility with it, I could have a little bit more say and certainly make my work on the project a little bit more worthwhile, I mean, if I was doing all of it anyway, what's the difference, So, with them, it was more or less not like an active hands-on producer on set, but more of an aftermath, finding distributors for them and, helping with the marketing plan and so on and so forth, which I tend to do anyway, just because it's like if I'm on your project, I'm there for the long haul, So
nice.
I'm leaning that way now, Plus it's really sad when you see a lot of these movies, and most often it's not anyone's fault but timing. But, you know, you work your ass off on these films, and it may take 5 years for it to ever come out.
Yeah.
So, you know, if I could be of any assistance in that, you know, kind of moving things along, you know, I'll gladly try to.
I mean, if you look your name up in Netflix, I mean, you come up with less than 20 things.
That's sad.
Where if you go to Amazon, you get like 70 hits in DVD. So it's, yeah, I could see some of your stuff resurfacing as the years go by, maybe some surprises you forgot about.
Sure. Granted, not all of my movies are any good. You know, I can't help what the final outcome is on everything. And Netflix has become an increasingly harder place because there's just such an influx of movies out there now.
Yeah.
You know, with these cameras becoming like unbelievably smart, you know, you don't necessarily need the top-notch, you know, DP to make these movies look decent nowadays. So there's so much product getting thrown at these distributors, especially for VOD stuff, that it's increasingly harder to get your movies played, even if they're good or better than some of the rest that's out there, you know?
What's
timing, man.
Yeah, what's frustrating for the fans, and I don't know if, I mean, I certainly have noticed this, not all these movies have to be 90 minutes. Like, who out there is paying these people with a 30-minute film to expand it to a 90-minute film, you know, to release their DVD? And it shows.
I don't know. It shocks me how some people get money, period, to make anything. But, you know, I would only imagine most of the time it's somebody's, you know, rich aunt or uncle that's like, oh, you make movies here, you know? Yeah, I don't know. It really shocks me, some of the stuff that gets played. Or even when you go to Redbox, you're like, how did that movie get in here, you know? You know, there's not a whole lot of rhyme or reason. So, like I said, I mean, if I could be of any help to get some of these movies actually out there, you know, and places that you can see them without just buying it as a bootleg at somebody's table at a convention, all the better. Yeah.
So the first time I ever saw you was at my local video store, and you were on the cover of a little movie called Death Factory.
Oh, good Lord.
I have to say, as an introduction to you, it was... Because I don't even know if you have any lines in that movie, but your makeup is so awesome. Do you like playing the monster?
I actually only took that part to play the monster.
Nice.
I had talked with those guys, you know, way back when, you know, 100 years ago, and they were wanting me to play one of, like, the lead girls, and I was like, yeah, the only way I'll do is if I get to play the monster. Because I just thought it'd be so fun just to be able to, like, run around aimlessly without any rhyme or reason and just kill people. And that was a really fun production to do for that reason alone. The rest of it was just giant cluster. I mean, you're making a movie for $0, you know, in the heat in California in the summer in a rundown haunted house made up to look like a factory.
Yeah.
Not, you know, my best piece of art. But that's actually what brought me to the Frankenstein Syndrome, which is strange, because a few years later, Sean Tretta was directing Death Factory Bloodletting, and they called me, and pretty much how it started out was like, we know you're not going to want to do this, but we need to offer it to you because the fans really want you in it. And it was a sequel to Death Factory, and, you know, of course, it was the same kind of lowdown as the first one. There's no money, it's going to be really undesirable, and it's going to suck. Do you want to do it? And I was like, yeah, absolutely not. But, you know, Sean was really charming and great and blah, blah, blah. And then years later, I had worked with Noah Todd, who was a producer and actor in the Frankenstein Syndrome. He's since passed away, but he and I had worked together on a movie called Sickle, which is not out yet, which stars me and Kane Hodder. And he was in that and a few other local Arizona movies. And he's like, oh, you got to use Tiffany Shepis. And Sean's like, yeah, well, she turned us down for Death Factory. F her kind of deal, you know. And he's like, but she won't turn us down for this, and it's great. And I got the script, and I was like, man, this is so different, you know, so different than the stuff that, you know, is usually thrown my way, which, you know, requires running through the woods screaming naked, which I love. No issue with it, but, you know, it definitely gets boring after, you know, your 100th time doing the same thing. So I jumped at the chance and pretty much told them I actually had experience with illegal stem cell research. I had a friend that was going, getting stem cell therapy down in Mexico, and would kind of hear all the stories about it. And I was like, this kind of touches close to home. And so we shared some conversation, and next thing you know, I got the part. So
That's
So
really...
it all goes back to Death Factory.
It does. It does. One performance of yours, speaking of, things that look painful, was in Ivan Zukon's Nympha.
Yeah.
I was really impressed. I mean, it looked like a pretty brutal, emotional experience. Was that hard to get into?
It was a hard movie to do. I mean, first off, we shot in Italy, which, is gorgeous and awesome, and you can't be going away to Italy for your job, but you're in a different country. I've never had worked with these people before. No one spoke English. I don't speak Italian. So, you're really trying to get across, like, what they want from you and what you can bring to the table, and it's quite impossible. However, they were the most amazing people to work for. And by the end of my 19 days there, we actually had a common language, which was neither English nor Italian, but we were able to communicate on this weird level, which was pretty awesome. But yeah, daily, every day was just a different torture, and it wasn't, I didn't think, made to be any kind of like torture porn, gratuitous, oh man, look how sexy she is because she's naked. Like, I thought it was brutal,
No, it's
brutal and awful and hard, and there's something to be said about when I do these kind of like comedic, dumb, campy horror movies where it's just kind of still fun and lighthearted. This was dark. And so yeah, every day you kind of went home exhausted, like, shit, I don't have any more tears left in me, and oh wait, I don't have to cry because I have no eyes in this movie now. It's like every day was just like, God damn, my life in this film sucks. But people seemed to, I don't know, pretty impressed from what I got from what we did with that little film, and if you're into the kind of slow-paced story of an Italian horror film, most people have really, really dug it and found how creepy it was. And the same kind of thing, Ivan and them, with no money, still managed to pull off something that was beautiful and different. Where you find here in America, a lot of people, have only $20,000 and they shoot it in their basement and they don't give a shit about set design. They don't care about costumes, they don't care about lighting. So let's make a movie, and that's why we're flooded with so much garbage, Even if you have a little amount of money, you can still make something look cool, or at least try, And I think that's what they did. And speaking of Ivan, I'm actually going back there next month to do another movie for him, and it'll be me and Debbie Rochon called Wrath of Crows. And that's a fucking weird movie.
Nice.
Weird movie, but I don't go through nearly as much torture. I kind of inflict some, so.
All right.
So it'll be a cross between Nympha and my Death Factory role.
Cool. I'll look forward to that one.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I'm very, very excited. Like, I say it all the time, like, those people to work with were just phenomenal. And the way they shoot in Italy is so different than here. It really is a family ensemble. His, 70-year-old mother was on set every day at 3 a.m. making costumes, and his dad was out there building sets at 5 a.m. after we wrapped at 4. It's everyone kind of gets together, and you know what, I think the reason why they do it is because you're allowed to drink beer on set in Italy. People,
nice.
When they're tired or stressed out, you just go and have a few sips of them already, and then everything's good again.
I've heard that it's really laid back.
It's really like that. It's certainly nobody's on set getting drunk, it's
No.
not anything like that. It's just to kind of keep the edge off, And I thought that was a really charming way to work. It's like, because they know that people aren't getting paid a ridiculous amount, at least, we can do is keep them happy. And everybody was. You never heard once anyone complain that we were on our 17th hour. Where here in America, you get to fucking 12 hours and people are pissed off. They're mad at the sandwiches they had and they're ready to go home, So it was definitely a different experience. I'm super excited to go back.
I saw a short film with you called Man vs. Woman by Juan Carlos Vargas. And
that was pretty cool.
I enjoyed that a lot. That was fun, but it looked physically demanding, maybe, out in the desert.
Yeah, we shot in Death Valley, and then we shot in Mojave Desert, and it was hot, and I'm carrying around big giant things, and running barefoot through a dry lake bed sucks.
Yeah.
Like, it sucks. Like, every part of you hurts by the end of the day. And, and that's what I constantly tell people. People are like, oh man, your job is so sweet, which it is. I really can't knock what I do for a living. But there are days that you're like, man, I just don't feel like doing this. I don't want to run around barefoot. I don't want to be out in 120-degree weather fucking shooting this thing for 12 more hours, But it's like, just suck it up, man.
What are the what would be, without instigating any lawsuits, what would be the worst or the weirdest shooting conditions you've worked in?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, not most of my shoots have been pretty sucky as far as location-wise, because you got to remember, I mean, most often you're making a horror film, you want someplace that looks creepy. Most places that look creepy are creepy. They're creepy and run down and dirty and, physically demanding. I believe, I think it'll be okay lawsuit-wise, but we shot Dark Real, and we were shooting in a theater, I think like somewhere in Long Beach, and it was an actual condemned theater. I mean, and literally as we're walking in to shoot, it's telling you everywhere, signs like, get out, do not stay in here, condemned, 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 condemned.
No.
Like, if there happened to have been an earthquake, we would all been, just smush. So there's shit like that, you're like, man, this really sucks. Why am I here? Like, but certainly if you're the only one that complains, you're the real douchebag. Everyone just wants to go home to it. It's like, all right, fuck it, let's just get in there and do it, Stuff like that sucks. Like, I had to run barefoot through the meatpacking district in Manhattan. For a movie called Shampoo Horns, which was a Spanish film, which is a really weird movie, not a horror film. It was like a club kid movie about like the whole Michael Alec, they did a movie about that guy Michael Alec and what's his name? What's that little dude from Home Alone's name?
Macaulay Culkin.
Macaulay Culkin played him, and it was like a HBO movie. Anyways, all these actors, all these people that were like real life party kids turned killers were in this film with me. It was like a mockumentary. And in the scene, I play a club kid that gets jacked up on like ecstasy and a bunch of other things, and runs through Manhattan like in her nightgown, barefoot, and then ends up getting hit by a car on the George Washington Bridge. And it was a true story of what happened to this club kid. And so I have to run barefoot through Manhattan in the meatpacking district, and I'm from New York, and walking through the meatpacking district makes you want to fucking throw up in the first place. Now you're running barefoot in the cold at night when they wash it down, so it's like slimy entrails.
Oh.
And like I remember running, and I'm like about to puke, and then I'm like, oh god, that was like a pig gut. Oh fuck, keep running. Oh, that was a rat. Like, I'm like, oh Jesus Christ, I just got like hepatitis or something worse. So like every shoot you're gonna have a story like that. I mean, when we shot the Frankenstein Syndrome, we shot in the actual Phoenix Memorial Hospital, which is a working hospital, but three of the floors were decommissioned, and the other floors were still a working hospital, but it was for prisoners. Like, so if you got stabbed in jail, this is where you'd be sent. So when we would all go out for like our smoke break or lunch, we'd be hanging out with like the prison guards and like hear their stories, and still like you're working in a hospital for 30 days. I'm like, oh man, we've all caught something, got something. I don't know what it is, but we've got it. We've got MRSA. Because like you think the hospital is a safe place to be, it's not. You catch more things being in that place than you will anywhere.
Oh yeah.
So every place I've shot predominantly has been just pretty sucky. Except for the Italy movie, actually. Like, that was like, we shot in like an old castle. Like, this is pretty dope. Yeah,
that's one of the things that, that really stands out in that movie. That's great location.
Oh, yeah, are you kidding? It's beautiful. If only I had eyes in the movie to see it.
Hey, the more parts they cut off, the less parts you have to act with, You can
this is true, but
just,
you know what, dude?
Focus
it's
on your
hard
torso.
to act without your eyes.
Oh yeah, I didn't think of that.
It really, really, really is. Like I remember just going like, God damn it! Like if only I could just cry in the scene, that would explain everything,
Yeah.
And you got no eyes, so how else do you do it? I don't know. Hopefully, I guess if they didn't like what I did, I wouldn't be going back. So
that's true. One of the things that I noticed about when you are in a movie is you kind of add some subtle, sometimes bizarre things to a character. And one of the things I love is in Adam Wingard's Homesick. Your character, Candace, one of the many people in the movie that's doomed to die at the hands of a demonic killer. But so your character goes to work as a night janitor, does some coke, and then starts mopping the walls of a cafeteria. First of all, brilliant. Second of all, what the hell was that? Was that in the script?
No, it wasn't in the script. From what I remember, I feel like we had this scene, and it was just like I go to work, and I get all coked up, and then I'm supposed to, like, walk around and do really weird things, like, while cleaning, and, like, me and Adam are, like, standing there, and, like, I think I had the mop, and, like, I went to, like, hit him with it. He's like, yeah, you should, like, kung fu everything with that shit, like, jump up on the walls, and it kind of just went from there, and, like, as we're doing it, we're like, this is so weird, but maybe that's awesome.
It stands out. It stands out quite a bit. I loved it.
Everybody in that movie was so strange that I think it just it worked. Like, I even remember when I watched it like years later, I was like, what the hell were we thinking?
Man, that is
and
a
like
weird
the same
movie.
thing with like me throwing up on my mom and like playing with her blood. Like originally I'm supposed to just walk in and find her dead.
Yeah.
And, you know, stupid me, I'm like, I look cool covered in blood. Maybe I should play with it. And then Adam's like, yeah, maybe you should throw up on her. Like, yeah. Like,
For some reason, that seemed normal to me. But the mopping the walls, like, what the hell was that? You know? That may say something about me. I don't know.
Yeah, you're the Fruit Loop here, man.
I'm wacky. Another bizarre one that I love is in Rolfe Konevsky's Corpses. There's a moment in that movie where you and Stephen Williams are having this like touching emotional scene. Like you guys just had a fight and you're making up, and just before it cuts to the next scene, I swear you're trying to jam your finger into Stephen's mouth, and then you're kind of like you're smiling maniacally. Do you remember doing that?
No.
It is amazing. I think they could have cut a second before that, but I'm so glad they didn't because it's hilarious.
I have to go back and watch that now.
It's right when you guys are arguing.
Corpses is my mother's favorite movie of mine.
Really?
I'm like, really? Corpses? Oh, it's so funny. Like, oh, wow.
Oh,
okay.
no, that's not it. She's got a thing for Jeff Fahey.
Yeah, I'm sure she does. Who doesn't have a thing for Jeff Fahey?
I know I do.
I know I do. I wanted to like put in some like crazy incest scene, but Rolfe said no.
What a jerk. I can't believe he did that.
You would have loved it.
I would have been like, wow, this is hot.
This is hot.
I have to tell my wife to leave the room.
Sex.
Like, honey, leave the room. This is me and
No,
Jeff
I don't
Fahey.
remember doing that, but yeah, I'm sure it was me just probably messing with Rolfe, like, oh, you ruined the take, you know, but I'll keep it anyway. Like, Rolfe and I pretty much share the same sense of humor, so he may have saw it after the fact, like, oh, this is hysterical, let's keep it, you know, who knows.
There are, and you probably know this, there are currently 93 credits to your name on IMDb. This is astonishing and discombobulating. What, like, if a person, whether or not they're a fan of yours or they're just hearing about you now, what are some titles that you would really like people to see immediately?
The Hazing.
Oh, I love The Hazing.
The Hazing, definitely. The Violent Kind, which just came out.
Saw that trailer for that.
Nympha, probably. But see, Nympha's kind of an acquired taste, you know? Like, The Hazing kind of is I think, universal. You know, because it's horror. Most people like 80s kind of funny stuff. You know, there's definitely enough gore in there for people that want that. And it's shot really well with like a decent budget. So, you know, you're not going to have the people that are only used to mainstream horror, you know, shy away from it. The Violent Kind, because it's just very, very, very weird, and I think I play a cool character in it. And then certainly the Frankenstein Syndrome. I think those would, at the moment, be, you know, my top 3 or 4.
Yeah, it's really good. I was really impressed. I think people that have, you know, interests or fetishes in skin-tight silver jumpsuits should go directly to The Hazing.
You know, when that movie came out, more people write me that wanted to buy that costume. And for a minute there, I thought about, like, reproducing it and selling it at shows. Because, I mean, I would get, you know, probably 10 or so requests every convention. And people are like, oh, I buy it. I buy it, $200, easy, $300. You know, like, wow, really? Yeah, like, hopefully no one ever asks me to, like, if they ever did a Hazing remake, to try to wear that same costume again. It may not have the same appeal 10 years later.
No,
You gotta do a lot of sucking in, man. Like, I think I was sewed into the back of that costume. Ugh, the thing was so hot. But yeah, like, I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff that I have that's come out recently, you know, I mean, that's not even straight horror. Like Rule of Three was like a weird psychological thriller, and I think that movie as a whole is fantastic, and I just had a small part in it, but from what people tell me, you know, they really dug it. I mean, of course, I was totally naked in it, you know, that could have something to do with it, but, you know, definitely some interesting stuff. And like Bonnie and Clyde vs. Dracula, totally the other side of the spectrum, like campy, crazy, weird period piece, you know? So I think with the newer stuff that I have coming out, like the key is to try to like mix it up as much as I can, you know?
Yeah,
you see me in one is like, you know, the slain victim, and then the next one a crazy killer, and the next one a demonic crazy person, and the next one a molecular biologist, you know? Just trying to keep it new, man.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, you always seem to approach things with, I mean, you can do serious, and you can do funny, and you can do sexy. It's like, you're just a triple threat, man.
I am, man. I am. I've been trying to tell the world that for years.
Actually, that leads right into my next question. Perfect. So with all these film appearances and cameos and starring roles and even voice acting, what milestones have you reached in your career that you kind of want a little recognition for, then a little pat on the back? Like, what have you done that you're really, really just super proud of?
Well, I had a movie that played Sundance last year. I think that's kind of awesome.
Nice.
You know, there's not many quote-unquote scream queens that have, you know, a festival like that under their belt. Usually it's like the Sacramento Horror Film Festival, you know, which is a cool festival, by the way.
Right.
But, you know, that's a pretty big mainstream art house festival to be involved in, you know, which right then and there I was like, that's awesome. You know, I could be done right now, you know. And then just kind of doing different stuff. I mean, your typical quote-unquote scream queen was the girl who ran through the woods and died in a lot of films. You know, took her clothes off, didn't really need to bother with acting. You know, that was kind of like second to all the rest of the stuff you got to do. You know, it's the fact that, you know, people are watching my stuff now, and, you know, where years ago it was like, wow, Tiffany could develop into something really cool. And now they're saying, wow, awesome, thank God she's finally getting the parts that we wanted her to have. So, you know, the fact that, like, the fans are recognizing that, and, you know, directors are certainly taking notice, going, oh, wait, you know, she could definitely do this, I think was a huge milestone, you know? And then as far as, like, what's next on the board, it's, like, kind of what I'm doing now, like, moving more into the producing of stuff, you know? It's asinine to have built up a lot of these connections and not use them, you know, and hopefully try to get people to make better movies. And, you know, if we only have a little bit of money, let's see what we can do and who we can bring to the table to make it just that much better.
Yeah, that is, and that's the commitment that we love. You know, you're not, I mean, we want you all the success in the world to get that awesome cop drama where you're the badass police lady who's kicking ass and taking names. But, you know, we all appreciate that, you know, you've stuck with the genre. That's and making more and better films. I'm trying. I mean, people used to ask me, and my goal is still the same. People are like, well, what do you want to do with your career? It's like, honestly, I could be happy and quit tomorrow if we had one horror film that we did that just hit a wider audience, you know, where it's not that, oh, shit, where do you find it? Oh, you can only find it on Amazon online. You know, something that is super accessible, that plays theaters, you know, like we had a little bit of that with Nightmare Man, you know, through the After Dark success, you know, and if we could just do more movies like that, it would just be pretty awesome, you know. I don't need to win any Academy Awards. I never had any aspiration. I never had any aspirations to be an actress to begin with, you know. So to say that, like, oh man, and I dream of being on a television show. I dream to be on a television show because you make a lot of money. Yeah. That's it. I mean, just the same reason why anybody would want to. It's like, I want to win the lotto. Yeah, no shit, who doesn't, you know? But as far as for my art, it's just to keep doing stuff that makes me happy. You know, it's like I said, you get to a point where you've done the same thing so many times, eventually it is just a job and it becomes somewhat boring. You know, like, oh yeah, what are you doing this weekend? Oh, I'm going to Iowa to do another film where I play a cameo where I get killed, and then they're going to slap my name on the box cover. Awesome. You know, eventually that just becomes mundane to talk about, you know? And I don't want it to be that way, so it's just kind of trying to change it up. So I am excited to talk about things, because that's what I tell people first and foremost when, like, they email me about a project. You know, I tell them my rates to talk about it, and they go, oh wow, you know, well, your rates are kind of high. And it's like, you know what, dude, my rates are high because you get a one-man PR team.
I will promote the hell out of your movie any which way I can till the day it's dead, not just until we're done filming, until that movie's out and about and then therefore after, and I'll help you find distribution and I'll help you make the fucking t-shirt.
Tiffany's in it to win it.
That's right.
So, you mentioned working with Ivan Zucon again. What are some other upcoming projects that we need to keep on the lookout for?
I'm working with Ivan. I'm supposed to be working with Adam and Jace again, the guys who did Night of the Demons. And that's a project that's up in the air. We'll see when that happens. I'm working with my husband, who is the guy who wrote and directed The Frankenstein Syndrome. Which was after, I married him after I turned down Death Factory 2, by the way. And even if I was married to him, I would have turned it down also. Just a side note. And so we're working on one of his projects that I am going to produce with him that I will also star in. So that one's up next, which, mind you, I would play a cop in, and that's all I can tell you about it. A badass, crazy cop. So you will get your cop drama fix out of that one.
All right.
And other than that, that's it for right now. I'm doing a bunch of conventions, going to Kentucky, and doing all sorts of crazy things over there for Fright Night Film Fest next month, and I don't know, a million other conventions for the rest of the year, film festivals and whatnot. And that's it. Waiting for the release of The Frankenstein Syndrome, and Cyrus comes out this summer, and that's that.
Nice. Well, I really appreciate you talking to me today, and
I appreciate you.
Hey, that is awesome.